We have been going through the book of James on Wednesdays, and in our last study, James talked about us not being partial and not being judgmental of people. And he gave us the example of someone who's dressed really well, someone who's dressed shabbily, and how they both come through the door at the same time, and you show preference to that individual who is rich. And James says, well, you've judged their hearts, not even knowing them, and anytime you judge someone in that way, you are committing sin. And listen to what he says as we continue on. He says, but if you show partiality, you commit sin, and are convicted by the law as transgressors. For whoever shall keep the whole law and yet stumble in one point, he is guilty of all. For he who said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not murder. Now if you do not commit adultery, but you do murder, you have become a transgressor of the law. So speak and do as those who will be judged by the law of liberty. For judgment is without mercy to the one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. Now let me break this down so we can grasp what he's saying here. And this is really one of the dangers of legalism. Because anytime I become legalistic, and it's, if you do this, you are a sinner. If you don't do this, then you are okay. And sometimes churches get caught in that, and Christians get caught in that. And the real danger of legalism is the danger the law carried. The law carried no mercy. The law only convicted people of sin. The law only passed judgment. The law contained no grace. And if you think about it, when I become legalistic, I remove grace from the way that I deal with people. I am now measuring them and judging them based on how I feel about something, based on my legalistic view. And when it comes to a legalistic view, if you look at our traffic laws as a good example, you will never get pulled over by a police officer and he will come up to your window and say, I just want you to know that you are the best driver I have ever seen in my life. You stop completely at stop signs. You signal well in advance of making a turn. You always look over your shoulder before you change lanes. You are amazing. You will never hear a police officer say that. If you get pulled over by a police officer, he will ask you a question. Did you see that stop sign back there? Do you know what the speed limit is? Do you know how fast you are going? Are you in a rush to get somewhere? They will ask a question because you have violated the law. And they are there to enforce the law. And the only way to enforce the law is by catching violations. And anytime a church or a Christian becomes legalistic, they are now setting themselves up as a judge, looking for something people are doing wrong. And James says here, okay, now you realize that in the law it was true. That in the Old Testament law, if you violated one part of the law, you were guilty of the whole thing. So as he said, if you do not commit adultery, but you commit murder, that doesn't mean that you're innocent of adultery. It means that you're guilty of violating the law. And so anytime we set up our laws and our legalistic views, we are looking for people to violate them so we can convict them. So James says, rather than operating under that law, and that law is the law that catches you doing wrong and punishes you for it and makes you pay for it, rather than that, let's be people who will be judged by the law of liberty. For judgment is without mercy to those who show no mercy. So if I am not merciful, what did Jesus say? Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. And if I am not merciful, then I am not going to receive mercy. And so he said, mercy always triumphs over judgment. So when we weigh these two things out, what's the best thing we can do? Be legalistic, be judgmental, be people who are looking for people to do something wrong, and when they do something wrong, we think less of them. We put them over in that bad category. What ends up happening is everybody ends up in the bad category, and there's nobody in the good category except us. And what we have done by being judgmental is we have set ourselves up as the judge the jury, the executioner, and we are not looking for people to do right things. We are trying to find something wrong with them. And if you've ever been around someone who's legalistic in that way, someone who is always looking for some fault with you, they may agree with you on 99.9% of the things that are matters of faith, but that 1/100, that tiniest portion, they will argue with you and they will judge you and they will condemn you. And so James is saying, let's not be those kind of people. Let's not be the people who are looking for faults, who are thinking that we are the perfect ones and everyone else is imperfect. Let's realize that in the same way that we need mercy from God, we need to be giving mercy to other people. Because if we need mercy, guess what? Other people need mercy. And we are going to dispense that mercy, because judgment will be without mercy to those who have shown no mercy. So I know people don't line up to your standards. People don't measure up. But you know what? Maybe our standards aren't that important. Maybe our feelings aren't the only things that count. Maybe we need to start being more merciful. Because when we're more merciful to others, we're going to be recipients of mercy. Because what happens is we become blind to things in our own lives. We are so busy trying to take the speck out of someone else's eye that we don't see we have this gigantic log in our own eye that we can't see past. And any time you find yourself in a position of being judgmental, guess what? There's something wrong with you. Not something wrong with them. There's something wrong with you. So let's stay away from the legalism, because legalism has no mercy. It has no grace. But the law of liberty, that's the law we're going to judge on. We're going to believe the very best in people, that their intentions were right, even though what they said may have come out wrong, and even though we may look at an action and say, well, I wouldn't do that. Let's realize that in the same way, we want people to show mercy to us. That only happens as we show mercy to others. And really, if you become legalistic, what you're really saying is, I'm perfect. And because I'm in a place of perfection, that puts me in a place of judging you. Lord, I pray today that you will help us to be judgmental free, that you will help us to walk in the law of liberty, and that we would give mercy, we would receive mercy, and that we would stop trying to measure people up, stop trying to judge people's hearts, stop trying to do what only you can do. And that's know the heart. We don't know their hearts. We don't know what they've been taught. We don't know exactly the motivation behind their actions, but you do. And I pray, Father, above all else, that we would love mercy. That we would love mercy. And Father, help us to be merciful to everyone, just as you have been so merciful to us. Amen. God bless you. Don't forget that this Sunday, we are going to be having drive-in communion. So at the church, 9608 I Avenue, we're all going to gather there in our cars, and we're going to distribute communion. We're going to have communion together, because I can't go 2 months without communion. So just remember, at 11 o'clock, we'll be broadcasting our service from 9:30 to about 10:30. Then we'll be meeting in the parking lot, and we're going to do communion, and you are invited. Even if you don't attend Jubilee Community Church, you are more than welcome to come to communion. Communion is so important. It's such a time of healing and such a time of encouragement that we want you to be partaker of it. I will see you again on Friday when we talk about relationships. And until then, God bless you and keep you and watch over you, and have a wonderful rest of your day.